Welcome to Because You Need to Know. I am Edwin K. Morse, President and Founder of Pioneer Knowledge Services. This series is your digital resource of valuable conversations with nonprofit and knowledge management enthusiasts from across industries and from around the globe. Matthew Viel has 25 years in transformational leadership, team building, and innovation in the U.S. Department of Defense with a major focus in knowledge management and innovation. Matt has built sustainable KM programs for Army commands at the 4-star level in Belgium, Germany, Italy, Arizona, and Hawaii. His most recent challenge is rebuilding the AFRICOM KM program as the Command Knowledge Manager. What's your closest airport to where you are now?
So I'm actually a lot closer to the airport than I thought I'd be when I came to Wiesbaden, because Wiesbaden's a relatively small town in Germany. I'm 12 minutes from at my house from Frankfurt Airport, and I'm about 15 minutes to work. So it's really good spot to be in here in Germany.
Very good. Even though the new paradigm doesn't require you to travel,
It
you
does
are
not.
set when you're ready to roll again.
I am, and it is interesting. There's changes afoot. Let's put it that way. I think it was always coming, but certainly this virus and our reaction to it, both personally and organizationally, has caused a bunch of stuff to shift.
Yeah.
In terms of telework was something that particularly the DoD did not do very regularly, at least outside of the Beltway.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, and now we've got some new technologies coming in. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, and that's not even to speak of the virtual private network and access points and classifications and all that other stuff that goes with that domain. I guess recently you've been thrown into the pool to find the goodness in an organizational capacity called teams.
It's interesting because I've always kind of been from a CAM perspective. I've always kind of been in the mode of pushing for new tools that can help us. Definitely have not been one, and there are plenty out there for good reason who have shunned the technology leg of KM, and some of that has to do with my background. And in our last time, I talked extensively about that, where I came from Army Signal and NetOps, and really just came to KM trying to improve the way we did business. So now you fast forward here 20 years later almost, and we've got a new tool that some of us have been clamoring for a while, or at least something like it, that's being thrust very rapidly to us. It's always been a challenge trying to get through firewalls and the DoD restrictions, and this thing came at us. The first 10, 15, 20,000 people got pushed into this thing in about 72 hours after notification. And some of that had to do a lot with risk assessment at the DoD CIO, and then and now here we are.
Did it kind of grease the skids already because it's a Microsoft product?
It certainly did, because it's no secret that a lot of the DoD is Microsoft based. We've just been that way. You get wrapped into a technology, it's hard to get out. You get so many people and so much money at this scale. Certainly, people want to reap the rewards of the investment, and so some of that was that. I think there's no secret that there's a couple different things that have been coming down the pipe that have been decided, but are somewhere stuck in legal channels. One of them is JEDI, which is basically infrastructure as a service, Azure essentially, Microsoft Azure through their data centers. And then there's DEOS, which is this other movement that's coming that really is Office 365, and get us off of a lot of our legacy on-premise equipment
servers,
that's physical servers cost us a ton of money. But with that, fast forward into a very new world where tools have kind of gone forward. We've stayed in really centered in file shares and email, and particularly for leaders, VTCs in VTC rooms that are centered around PowerPoint briefings. So This is it's a brave new world for us, and honestly, there's a lot of goodness.
In a nutshell, tell me, what are the three top challenges with such a rapid deployment of a new technology?
It's interesting because now, I'm kind of back in Signal. I'm not a KM guy anymore. Although I mean, it's that old adage I think applies definitely to KM. You can take the KM guy out of KM, but KM is still in us, and it's something we've been preaching for years. KM is everybody's business, and so it's hard to take off that hat and look at these challenges as a IT project manager, a branch manager with a bunch of IT project managers who are working infrastructure projects all across this continent here, without saying, hey, let me look at this from a KM perspective. And so that number one thing for me has always been there. It's digital proficiency. And
Sure.
as individuals, yes, but you have to try and raise the entire organization to at least a minimum level of proficiency. Otherwise, systems break down, and you've got critical pieces who are saying, hey, hold on, let me print this out and sign it and scan it and send it, and these things that we get drug into. The best KM solutions really do touch people, processes, and the tools, and they have to all kind of work in concert to be effective.
Can you talk more about this digital proficiency? I think I know what you're saying, but can you go into detail? What does that mean?
It involves a bunch of things. One of them is that individuals and organizations embrace the change, and then two, figure out how do these things work. And then the other two that I didn't really get to, really are processes and the culture. So
Yeah.
So digital proficiency really involves it touches all of those, because you really need somebody saying, hey, here's the best way to use these things. Here's how we can modify certain processes and procedures that we do. And then, ultimately, you're going to need either people convincing other people through personal leadership, or, leaders in the organization saying, we're going to this.
Setting the standard, and that's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Right? So there's an illusion here, because there has to be somebody that can see through the mist and understand not only just the governance piece, right? Because you also have to have an outline of, in this type of process, we'll use Planner, because now you're talking about other parts of Microsoft that falls into the bucket of Teams, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh. So now you've taken a 3,000 piece puzzle, threw it out on the floor, and said, make the best out of that in 20 seconds. It's like, well, there's not even any straight edges in this puzzle. What the hell? Where do I start?
Right. And so I will tell you, from a KM perspective, if I'm the KM of this organization, I want to get in on this from the ground floor, and for a number of ways, because it's going to come. That piece of spaghetti is going to get thrown on your wall. I guarantee it, and it's going to stick. It reminds me a lot of when SharePoint came about in, around 2003 for us in the DoD. Of course, they've been around for like 2 years. We're 19 years into SharePoint. We still have people saying it's kind of this new thing that we can't figure out. But we came to it with this idea that, hey, this is a tool that can help us get around doing some of the things that we really don't do that well, and improve them. And the unfortunate side effect of that was, it was at a time when KM was trying to show its value, and people wanted some product they could feel. And so the things that we built in SharePoint, and even just kind of being the cheerleader for SharePoint, led us to be also the figure out how to be the administrator, figure out how to procure a new version, figure out how to migrate. And so those are huge challenges for KM, because like the other organizations that had success, or parts of the organization that like IT systems, who had successfully deflected that and said, oh no, give that to the KM guys, mainly because they didn't have resources. It's not like we had resources either, and most KM shops back then were single home, one person,
right?
And they're still understaffed. But if I'm KM, that's what I'm jumping on it right now. So A, I can head it off at the pass, and B, I could figure out what is the best way to use this tool. Heaven knows people are figuring out rapidly how to get into some sort of routine with it. The best orchestras play with the maestro up front directing the thing. And so if we don't
and ideally everybody's on the same sheet music to begin with, in that
that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Otherwise, the music doesn't come out so pretty.
No, not so
I mean, that's kind of the story of the digital age so far. Anyway, I don't care what you say; it's just been that way. And
let me put a bumper on this. So we're getting close to time. So what would be your, in this predicament or opportunity, however you want to label it, what would be for someone else in an organizational situation that's just gotten the gee whiz bang stuff thrown on the table and said, here, use this? What is your best advice to an organization or an individual in this early stage of trying to figure out what's what?
We're going to see something very similar to what a lot of us in the KM community have dealt with in the past. You look at the whole taxonomy versus folksonomy. A lot of people try to come up with some sort of hybrid solution to that. I think we're going to see something very similar to that. And the old lesson learned or rumor, I've never seen it actually applied, that I think the best approach is this idea of you build a campus or something. Do you lay down the sidewalks first and carefully plan those out, and you put them out there, and then you build, you put the grass in, and then a year later you've got all these paths interconnecting? Or do you say let people walk around for a while, and then that's where they lay the concrete? And I think that's we're very much in that ballpark here with these new tools coming in and telework and things that we're just not used to.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like you've got a freedom that you never had before, an agency that is self-driven to some degree. And your analogy is spot on as far as I'm concerned, because my framework is that the IT guys or the information systems guys, gals, like to lay out the structure and make the people go where they should, versus as a user experience type mentality, how does the user need to work with stuff first and then build a machine that matches the behavior?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean,
you're in a mix right now, because now you've got a little of both going on.
We do. And and there's no doubt training needs to be there, but I hope it's not something where people are just afraid to even use it, or it's locked down so much we can't use it pending training or some sort of governance. I think we really need to let people play around with it, but we need some champions and some people to shepherd it. My biggest, it's not a fear, but the thing I'd like to see not happen is that it's kind of like the old adage of get out of your comfort zone. Well, I've always kind of tried to put a slight different twist on that. It's not about getting outside your comfort zone. It's about expanding that comfort zone permanently.
Yeah.
I'd hate to see us miss the opportunity here where we get comfortable and we're actually, I think, the productivity's gone up. I think our biggest concern right now is people getting burnt out because they're working too much. And so the tools and the telework together, I'd hate to see us go back to okay, that didn't work. We need to see people in the office, 8x5.
Right.
And that we really focus some attention on how do we find the right mix as we come out of this thing, to leverage the tools and leverage the new way we do business, so that we can maintain some of that higher productivity. And honestly, I think a lot more people are seeing opportunities for increased work-life balance as well.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for your time and expertise sharing on this, and good luck with the expansion of the digital proficiencies.
Thanks, Edwin. We'll see you.
Because You Need to Know is designed to bring people's experience and their knowledge forward to be shared. I'm Edwin K. Morris, and I thank you for joining in to listen to another conversation brought to you as a public service of Pioneer Knowledge Services, a nonprofit tax-exempt organization with a charitable knowledge management purpose. Find us online at pioneer-ks.org and add your voice to the conversation on Facebook.